I'm Sari.
And I'm Haley.
And this is Seamwork Radio. Welcome back to Seamwork Radio, where we share practical ideas for building a creative process so you can sew with intention and joy. Today, we're talking about how to design a more comfortable wardrobe. So we're going to cover 10 tips from identifying your comfort needs to all the details that make your clothes feel comfortable. All right, let's get into our icebreaker, Haley. If you could only sew with one type of fabric for the rest of your life, what would it be? This question is so hard.
It's really hard. I've been thinking about it because I do often come up with icebreakers myself. So I have an unfair advantage. I think at first I was going to say linen because I love linen, wearing and sewing it, but it's not great for our climate year round.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm going to go with denim because it comes in lots of different weights and colors, and I can look like a cowboy. So it seems like a fashion choice, you know?
Would you include chambray in that?
No, because it's not a twill.
Not denim, yeah.
But there's really like lightweight denims that you could like make like more shirting weight denims, and
yeah,
you make dresses and shirts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Really heavy denims for outerwear.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I hadn't thought about denim. You went real specific though.
I did go really specific.
I think for me, I would choose some kind of cotton. I think I'd probably go with a cotton lawn. I feel like cotton lawn is really, really versatile. You can make skirts out of it. You can make dresses. You can make tops. It is kind of lightweight for our climate here. So I have to layer it with, I knit too. So layer it with sweaters. And I think that would work.
That would work. Or you could just move to like New Mexico or something. I don't know, somewhere.
I would love to move to New Mexico. Well, not really move there, but to go there often, maybe in the winter.
Live your best snowbird life,
Yeah, I would enjoy that. But I think cotton lawn is just such a versatile fabric. And first I thought a poplin, which I also really like to wear. But I think a lawn would be my first choice.
Suit your style.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get to wear all those Liberty prints too, if you want.
Okay. I see the appeal.
So that's mine. And if you have an icebreaker question for a future episode, we're trying something new. So you can leave it in a 5-star review on the podcast on Apple Podcasts. And if you do that, we'll use it in a future episode. So if you have a question for me and for Haley, then just leave it in a 5-star review and we'll get to it. So that's our new way of doing it. And you don't have to be a Seamwork member to leave one. Anyone can leave one. So we'd love to hear from you guys. All right, let's get to our topic today. So one of the exercises that we have you do in the Design Your Wardrobe program is to identify some criteria for your collection. So the Design Your Wardrobe program is really all about creating a collection of things you're going to sew for the season, something that is cohesive and goes together and fits your style. And part of that is figuring out what are the criteria for your collection. And through the last 6 years of Design Your Wardrobe, the top criterion that we hear from you for your wardrobe is comfort. And I think it's important to prioritize comfort for a lot of us because at the end of the day, even if you sew the most beautiful garment in the world, you won't wear it if it's not comfortable. At least I won't. So what makes something comfortable to you, Haley?
I think there's so many elements that create a comfortable garment. But at the end of the day, what makes something most comfortable to me is once I put it on, I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Which kind of boils down to it like being unfussy, the fabric being comfortable, the fit being right. There's a lot of different things that have to converge in order for you to not think about your clothes once you put them on.
Yeah, I think that's great. That really encompasses a lot of things about comfort. I would only add to that being able to move easily in it, I think would be another thing that I would add. I feel like if I feel constricted at all, then comfort level definitely goes down. Yesterday I wore this tweed mini skirt that I have, and it's really cute and it was comfortable all day, but then I went for a walk and I realized that I couldn't take big steps in it. when I was walking the dogs, and my comfort level obviously went down a bit after that. But it's like you said, I was more aware of what I was wearing at that point.
Right. When you have to think about like, well, how am I going to like bend over to grab the pan to cook my eggs in? Or
Yeah.
how am I going to like take a step over this puddle?
Mm-hmm.
That all adds to the comfort to me. Is like, I just don't want to think about it.
Yeah. How has your threshold for comfort changed over time?
It's really changed. I used to be someone who did not really like, not that I didn't care how comfortable things were, but I was willing to make a lot of comfort sacrifices, wear things that were like really fitted or like, you know, constricted my movement, wear things that were really short that I couldn't like bend over in, wear shoes that hurt my feet. It gave me blisters. I think that's like kind of typical when you're younger, though.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is necessarily, but I think that for me, as I became more comfortable in myself, who I am, and in my personal style, that became a sacrifice that I felt unwilling to make anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And there were milestones over time where like that happened. But I think becoming a mom was a big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just I don't have time. I don't have time to be uncomfortable. So yeah, now it's I would say it's a big criteria. I think I used to be like, why do you care so much about being comfortable? Don't you want to be cute? Now I realize that I'm cute always. So
yeah. I think that's part of it is over time you realize that you don't have to sacrifice comfort in order to feel good about how you look or feel like yourself in your clothing. Because I'm the same. When I was younger, I would definitely sacrifice comfort and wear things that were inappropriate for the weather or, you know, really uncomfortable shoes. I definitely wore a lot of really uncomfortable shoes, which I will not do anymore. I just do not wear uncomfortable shoes. I mean, maybe if I'm going to a wedding or something like that, then I will for a little while. But even then, you want to be able to dance. So
yeah,
even then, I wouldn't say that I would sacrifice comfort. So I do feel like you just kind of come to certain realizations as you age, as you go through life. And I think understanding that you don't need to sacrifice comfort was one for me, that you can do both. And there are a lot of ways to express yourself that will still make you feel physically good.
And it's kind of a fun, creative constraint to work within, I think.
Yeah.
So what's the most comfortable thing that you've sewn recently?
Well, two things come to mind. So right now I'm working on another pair of Joss pants. I've made them twice already. I actually just recommended them to my sister because she was looking for a comfortable pair of pants too. And they are elastic waist pants. If you're not familiar with the pattern, it's an elastic waist pair of pants. So very comfy. And I'm making them in silk charmeuse. So they're going to be very swishy and beautiful and luxurious, but at the same time, really comfy to wear around the house, kind of like silk pajamas. So that's something I'm working on right now. I have them cut out, but I haven't sewn them yet. And then the other thing that I have finished recently that's really comfortable is my pepper sweater, which is a turtleneck sweater, which I made in red cashmere fabric. So that is, I've been wearing that one a lot. It's really warm. It's easy to layer, and it's not fitted. It's just kind of like a nice, cozy, wrap yourself up sweater.
Cute. I think I made a Lex sweatshirt recently out of like a really soft blue knit that I really like, and I've been wearing a lot. And it's just kind of it's part of my weekend wardrobe. It's my mom wardrobe when I got to bring the kid to ballet class and run errands. And it's just a great like throw on piece. I really like the color on myself. So I feel cute in it, even though it's just like, you know, a sweatshirt that I wear with leggings and sneakers. I do have a gray, this really cool gray knit fabric. And on the face of it, the right side, it looks like a French terry, like a nice French terry. But on the back, instead of it being like French terry loops, it's like this, I guess, like velour type fabric.
Ooh.
It's it's a really short pile. And it's so like cozy. And I've been holding on to it for a couple years. I got it at Bolt here in Portland. And I think that pepper is going to be the right move for it because it has a good body. And I think the collar will look really good. And it'll be like secret pajamas. It'll look really good with like winter white pants because it's dark gray.
That sounds nice. I have a fabric in my stash that I really want to use for something like that too, but I have quite a bit of it. I was thinking about turning a sweater into a dress and making a sweater dress out of it because it's like that. It's probably, I would call it a brushed fleece maybe. It's like got a really soft brush texture on one side and a plain knit on the other.
Ooh.
Really nice. And it's like a pale pink color. Very, very pale though, almost like a cream color.
Short sweater dress, long sweater dress?
Short, I
Okay.
think, because it's kind of a bulkier fabric. So I think showing a little leg will kind of offset the bulkiness a little bit.
I feel like Devon shortened would be really cute.
Yeah, that would be really cute. Kind of a cocoon type dress.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's get into our tips. Enough talk about our own sewing.
I know, I could talk about that all day long.
We've got a lot of tips today for you for staying comfortable with your sewing. So let me get right into them. The first thing you want to do, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying about that exercise that we do in Design Your Wardrobe and thinking about the criteria, is making a comfort wish list. So identifying your comfort needs. So what you really want to do here is think about what comfort means to you, sort of like what Haley and I were just discussing. Is it something that's physical, like soft fabrics and stretchy waistbands? Or is it more emotional for you, like feeling confident and relaxed in your clothes? So it might mean different things to different people. So what you want to do is just start by listing out your priorities, really thinking about what feels comfortable to you and why. I think for a lot of us, it's some combination of those things, but the more specific you can get about it and the more you understand exactly what it means to you, I think the more happy you're going to be with what you ultimately end up making and how much you wear it. And one thing that I think can help with us is just looking at what you already wear a lot, things that you've made, or even things that you've bought that you tend to wear a lot, and what they have in common, what makes them very wearable for you and something that you want to put on in the morning to stay comfortable.
I think second to making that kind of comfort wish list is choosing fabrics that feel good. I think this is a huge contributor to our comfort in our clothing. So really think about what your sensory experience is. I think for a lot of people looking for natural fibers like cotton, bamboo, linen are all really great because they add to the breathability of a garment. Knits like jersey or ponte can be great for stretch and movement if being able to move really comfortably is something that's really important to you. French terry or even sweater knits or sweatshirt fleeces are cozy and soft and can work in a variety of different kinds of climates depending on the weight. Linen and rayon are also really comfortable for woven fabrics and have like some nice breathability and flow to them. I always make sure that I touch test fabric whenever I can. I think our tendency can be to touch it just with our hands, but touching like your forearm with it, I maybe don't like go rub your body all over a bolt of fabric at a fabric store. You might get kicked out. I don't know. But rubbing it somewhere like the inside of like the crook of your arm or your forearm where you have like a little bit more sensitive skin than like I don't know if your hands are like mine, all calloused and gross. It can be a great way to do a touch test. And then I also just like to avoid like itchy tags or finishes or trims. So really making sure that I'm considering comfort from the beginning when I'm selecting my fabric.
Yeah. One thing with the touch test, I think the forearm is a great option. Also my neck, I will, touch fabric to my neck because that's an area that can be very sensitive, especially if you're making like a sweater or something that's going to be up there around your neck. I remember somebody giving me this tip from our community one time, which is this I assume is after you've bought the fabric, but you can take a swatch and put it in your bra and just tuck it into your bra and see if you can tolerate that. And that's a good touch test too. But I wouldn't do that if you haven't bought the fabric yet. It's a little intimate.
It is a little intimate. I'm imagining asking someone to cut you a swatch and
then just stick it right in your bra. All right. The next tip we have is to prioritize fit. So one of the things that can really make clothing feel uncomfortable are clothes that are too tight or too loose, depending on, what you actually enjoy wearing. So learning to adjust patterns and get them to fit in the way that you prefer really helpful for making your clothes more comfortable all around. One thing we can recommend for this is our How to Fit with Confidence class, which Haley teaches. It's a great introduction to fitting, and it'll teach you a lot about small things you can do, kind of principles of fitting that can really help elevate the things that you make by getting them to fit the way you want them to fit. And we also have a free fit journal that you can download. So maybe we can put a link to that in the show notes as well if you're interested in that. But just learning how to fit your clothes and get them to the place that you want them to be in. Personally, I like to wear things that are loose. Sometimes I like to wear things that are more fitted, depending on what it is. And so making sure that the fit is the way I want for that particular garment and my own preferences is really helpful for making me feel comfortable in it later.
Yeah. And also checking details like cuffs and waistbands and things like that. I find that you can have a garment that fits otherwise great, but if the cuff is just like a little bit too tight, and you're messing with it all day long, it's so annoying.
Yeah, or too long, it's covering up your hands when you need to use your hands during the day. And there's all kinds of really small tweaks that you can do that are going to make your garments more comfortable.
I think that's why it can be so important to have tried and true patterns that you tweak over time and really perfect so that you can create like peak comfort.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, our next tip is to think about how to make clothes for different types of occasions feel more comfortable. I think a lot of the times we think about how we can make our lounge clothes the comfiest that they can be, but then tend to not think quite as carefully about that when we're considering other contexts in our life. So opting for items that work across activities is a great option. So for example, loose flowy dresses can feel really comfortable to lounge in at home, read a book, do what you got to do, but could also be great casual day wear or even something that you feel comfortable enough to wear to work. You can also layer joggers for lots of different seasons and pair with a jacket or really any kind of knit pant. We have the Dexter pant in our catalog, which is like a sleek, kind of like a secret legging, but masquerading as a trouser. So looking into places where you can add in more knitwear into your wardrobe. And another favorite is a jumpsuit. It's really easy to dress up and dress down and can function across all different areas of your life.
Yes, absolutely. We're making a video pretty soon. I don't know if it'll be out by the time the podcast comes out. It's probably around this time. We're making a video on 10 easy patterns for spring that you can sew in a day. And I was just writing it. And one of them is the Lucy jumpsuit, which I have. I made it in a really bold black and white check knit. So it's a real simple knit jumpsuit. It's sleeveless, so I can layer it really easily. I can wear a turtleneck underneath when it's cold. I can put a sweater over it. I can put a cardigan over it. And it is just so comfortable. It's like I'm not wearing clothes at all. It's so comfy. I absolutely love it. So looking for things like that, I think can really, really make it feel like you're really in your pajamas all day long.
Secret pajamas for the win.
And speaking of that, my next tip is to incorporate layering pieces. So I mentioned with the Lucy jumpsuit that I like to layer it in various ways, and that way I can wear it all year long. So layers really let you adjust for temperature changes, at the same time keep you very comfortable. So think about cardigans or wraps that are really easy to mix and match. And you can also think about layers that can go under, like t-shirts or long sleeve shirts or silky camisoles, maybe, depending on what it is. I have three or four different Alice tees that I've made, which is a long sleeve, basic fitted crew neck shirt. And I wear them constantly under other things in the cooler weather. And it really extends my handmade wardrobe because I can stay warm and still wear things that maybe normally I would only be able to wear when it's sunny out. So just thinking about that and how you can keep to appropriate clothing for the weather and at the same time kind of extend your wardrobe and things like that can be super, super helpful.
Our next tip is to add stretch where it counts. So when you're working, and this is speaking directly to stretch wovens, depending on the fit, sometimes a stretch doesn't make sense necessarily. If something has plenty of ease in it, the stretch isn't going to do a lot for you other than perhaps make it slightly more fiddly to sew. But look at your garments a little bit more closely. And if they have things like fitted waistbands or fitted cuffs, or just have an overall fitted look, perhaps choosing a stretch woven is a good choice for that garment. Or if you have to wear hard pants for whatever your reasons are, professional or personal reasons, look into a stretch woven for those. Lots of times you can end up using a stretch woven for a lot of woven patterns. We get this question a lot. It can just be a case where you want to make a mock-up in a similar type of fabric beforehand. If you're between sizes, often you can size down. So just looking at the finished measurements and comparing to maybe similar garments in your wardrobe, if that's a choice that you choose to make, which I encourage you to.
Yeah. Or maybe also testing the stretch of the fabric and seeing if, what the recovery is going to be like over the long term. Can you stretch it out? Does it go back to its original shape? Does it stretch out? I mentioned those Alice tees a minute ago, and I made a few of them in a 1x1 organic cotton rib knit, and they turned out great. And then I used a variegated rib knit for the last one I made, and it just ended up really stretching out and looking, 2 or 3 sizes bigger than the others. So seeing if your fabric is actually going to recover back to its original shape after it's stretched can be really, really helpful.
Yeah. Second to stretch percentage, recovery is the single best indicator to how successful your stretch projects are going to be, whether that's in stretch wovens or knit fabric.
Yeah, absolutely. The next tip is to include comfort boosting details in your clothing. So some examples of this might be to add pockets, if that's something that's useful to you. I always like to have pockets when possible. Not everything should have pockets. I know you feel that way, Haley, and
strongly.
I agree. Not everything should have pockets, because sometimes it does interfere with the look of the garment. If you have like a really fitted skirt, for example, then an inseam pocket is the hips of the garment bag out, for example. Not everything needs pockets, but if I can fit pockets in and it's going to not interfere with the lines of the garment, then I love them. I like to have dog treats in my pocket at all times. So if I don't have pockets, then I have to carry something with me in order to carry my dog treats. So I just really like having pockets. Another thing is soft lining fabrics. So if you have a fabric that, you've done that touch test, you've put it on your forearm or your neck or in your bra, and it didn't perform the way you wanted. It was a little itchy. Soft lining fabrics can help with that and make things a little bit more tolerable to wear if, they're not quite soft enough to be touching your softer areas of skin. And choose seam finishes that reduce bulk and that don't rub against your skin, like maybe a French seam, depending on the fabric, or flat felled seams, for example, that aren't going to add that extra bulk of the seam and rub over time. That's one reason why things like jeans have flat felled seams, is you don't want that extra seam kind of, especially if something is very fitted to your body, rubbing against you all the time, because that can lead to discomfort.
Our next tip is to opt for minimal closures. I think that it's kind of important to figure out what closures you feel most comfortable in. Personally, I think a lot of people think of elastic things as being really comfortable, but for some people that can be like a sensory experience that isn't that great feeling. Mm-hmm. I've noticed this in fittings with models, that a lot of times they're like, I can really feel this sleeve on my arm because there's an elastic cuff in it. And some people don't mind it at all, and some people do. So really considering what kind of closures feel most comfortable on your body and planning accordingly. It can also be practical things, like if you hate buttoning things up and down, perhaps skipping things that have tricky buttons, or if you like pull-on pants, elastic waistbands can be great rather than zippers. Wrap closures are also really comfortable and adjustable. So throughout the day, if you have a hefty lunch, you can loosen things up a little bit. Details like this can make getting dressed a lot easier and moving around throughout your day and all of your changes in your body just feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. And one thing I'd add about the elastic is, this is just like a quick thing that you can do to make your elastic garments a little bit more comfortable, is just make sure the elastic is the right size for that area of your body. Sometimes a pattern will tell you what length to cut the elastic, and that's a really nice guideline for the size that you're making, but you want to kind of customize that to your own preferences. It's a really great opportunity to make the garment fit exactly the way you want. So try it around, for example, if you're doing a waistband, put the elastic around your waist and think about whether that feels comfortable at that size. If you want a little bit more length there to make it a little bit looser, if you want to tighten it up a little bit, then that's another option. Same thing for, elastic cuffs, any place where you're going to put elastic. Just make sure you take that extra, 30 seconds to make sure that it works for you.
I think another thing that people take for granted is the type of elastic that they're using. Most people default to braided elastic, which is great for lots of different things. We actually have a really great video on different types of elastic that perhaps we can link.
It's one of our most popular videos.
Yeah, it's great. But if you don't like the feeling of your elastic rolling in your waistband, woven elastic can be really great for that. If you like a little softer elastic, knit elastic is great. I think a lot of people default to braided, and although I like that, it's really multi-use. Knit and woven are also really good options for lots of instances.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking as you were talking about that video that we should make an updated version of that video. Maybe we can make a little download, like a one sheet about elastic that people can download so they have a reference.
Ooh, I like it.
Because I know I was making something with elastic recently and I was like, wait, which type of elastic should I use for this? So I went back and watched that video just to make sure that I was using the right one. So that would be really, really helpful, I think. All right, the next tip is to plan for easy maintenance. So make sure to choose fabrics and designs that overall fit your lifestyle. Machine washable clothes definitely eliminate stress. So just think about how you're going to care for your garments after you make them. And this really helps to make sure that you actually wear them. Because if it's something that you're going to have to dry clean, or if it's something that you're going to have to hand wash and you hate hand washing, or you don't have time to hand wash things, then you're less likely to wear it, I think. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah. Or if the care of the fabric is going to change the comfort of it over time, which can sometimes be the case.
Oh, yeah.
Considering that as well.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing is, when you pre-wash your fabric, to make sure that you're doing it in the same way that you're intending to care for it later. So for example, I will sometimes throw clothing in the washing machine on a gentle cycle, even though you maybe would be best to hand wash them. I think sometimes, the hand wash or the gentle cycle will work just fine as long as I don't pop it in the dryer. And so if I know that that's how I'm going to be caring for the garment, I will pre-wash it in the exact same way. So it's something to think about before you sew, not just after you sew.
Yeah, my general rule of thumb is to pre-wash it one step more aggressively than I think I'll actually care for it. Because I'm realistic, if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. I find most things that are supposed to be hand washed can go in the gentle cycle of your washing machine. I think the dryer is where you run into the most problems.
I'm a hang dry girl myself.
Yeah.
All right. And our final tip is to curate a calming color palette. I think lots of people can be kind of sensitive to bright colors or prints, or maybe you like them in theory, but then when it comes down to it, maybe it's a emotional discomfort. And sometimes I know for me, for my loungewear specifically, I don't want anything that's not super soft and makes me think happy, mellow thoughts when I look at it, because color theory is very real and colors have an impact on the way we feel. So neutrals or soft tones can make getting dressed feel really cozy, but maybe you're not like me. There's a good chance that you're not. If you feel your best self in really bright, bold colors, then definitely go for that. I think it's just figuring out your comfort palette and whatever that means for you.
I like that idea of a comfort palette. I think because there are certain bright colors that I do feel really good in, and then a lot of them that I really don't feel like myself in, even if I like them in theory.
Yeah. Or things that you feel comfortable wearing to work or out and about, but when it comes to being at home, it's just not the vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like really soft, kind of muted but pretty pastel-y colors, and then I like neutrals, and I like I also like to wear bright red sometimes. So that's kind of like the palette I've established over time that makes me feel like myself. So I think Design Your Wardrobe can help you with this too if you're kind of stuck on a palette, because I know it's helped me because I come up with a palette every single season for my collection for that season, what I'm going to sew that season. And then I start to notice patterns over time and see what colors I tend to be drawn to in the spring or the summer, and then which ones in the fall and winter. And over time, that's really helped me to establish what colors I feel most comfortable in generally year round. So I find that super helpful. All right, well, I'm going to recap the tips that we covered. We covered 10 tips, so I'm going to go through them real quickly for you guys. First is to identify what you need to be comfortable, so make that comfort wish list for yourself. Then choose fabrics that feel good. Tip 3 is to prioritize fit. Tip 4 is to think about how you can make clothes for occasions other than lounging feel more comfortable. Next, add stretch where it counts. Tip 7 is to include comfort-boosting details. Tip 8 is to pick the closures you find most comfortable. Tip 9 is to plan for easy maintenance for your comfy clothes. And the last tip is to create a calming color palette for yourself. All right, what's your big takeaway from this episode, Haley?
I think my takeaway is really more of a tip that I'm just realizing is that these 10 ideas that we ran through with you today can be a really great way for you to expand upon what your comfort criteria is. So instead of just thinking of what's the most comfortable garment I have, which is a great exercise, or what kinds of things do I feel most comfortable in, looking at all of these elements that we talked through today, like fabric and fit, stretch, comfort details, and making this kind of more expanded list of all of the things that you like to include in your most comfortable garments. I think that if you had something like this, it would make choosing between patterns, choosing between product or projects so much easier, and would probably yield a much more wearable wardrobe. So really thinking of all of these different areas when you're creating that checklist for yourself.
I love that. I think my big takeaway from this episode is that comfort is much more complex than it might seem on the surface, because it's not just about, the physical feeling you have, but also the emotional feelings you have around your clothes. So I think it's the kind of thing that really develops, or you develop a sense of it over time. It's not necessarily just something you can decide, immediately what is comfortable to you. You kind of have to study it a little bit and observe yourself over time in order to figure out what comfort really, really means to you and how you can make your clothes feel physically good. And really, it's about treating yourself well. And that can be hard. As I've learned over time, it can be hard to know how to treat yourself well. But I think it's something that's achievable if you pay attention to it. And that's really the key, I think, is just paying attention to what's going on, with your brain and your body. All right. Well, we mentioned Design Your Wardrobe several times throughout this episode. And when you join Seamwork, you get access to that program. It's super popular. And the spring 2025 season is happening right now, but there's still time to sign up. So we officially start on the exercises next week. So if you're interested, go ahead and sign up, and you can definitely still join in. And what it does is it walks you through a process of designing a collection of projects that you're going to sew for that season. And it's also available as a self-guided program, but we run it as a group course 4 times a year. So every season we run a group course, and it's really, really fun to do together. So you can learn more at seamwork.com/go/DYW. And if you want a taste of what's included, you can get our free sewing planner at seamwork.com/go/free-planner. So that's seamwork.com/go/free-planner. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And this is something that I go through every season. And if you want to see some of the things that I've made using Design Your Wardrobe and using that planner, then you can head over to our YouTube channel, and I share what I'm making every single season over there. And then at the end of the season, I share what I actually accomplished and what I made and how I feel about them. So You can check that out over on YouTube, and our channel is Seamwork Video over on YouTube. And if you like this episode, you can leave us a review. And remember that if you have a question for me and Haley, you can leave it in your 5-star review and we'll use it as an icebreaker on a future episode. You can also follow us on YouTube, again, at Seamwork Video. You can follow us on Instagram at Seamwork. And if you'd like to join Seamwork and become part of our private community, plus get access to hundreds of sewing patterns, and dozens of classes, podcast listeners get a 50% off lifetime discount when you join at seamwork.com/go/podcast50. So that's seamwork.com/go/podcast50. And that does it for us this week. I'm Sari.
And I'm Haley.
And this is Seamwork Radio. Seamwork Radio is brought to you by the team at Seamwork. Seamwork's an online community that supports you in creating a wardrobe that feels right for you. When you join us at Seamwork, you become part of our private community of makers, and you also get access to monthly sew-along classes, a library of over 200 sewing patterns, and tons of great resources to help guide you through the sewing adventure that you choose. Podcast listeners can get half off a Seamwork Unlimited membership, which means you can download as many of those 200 plus patterns as you want at any time, and our community will be there to guide and support you. If you'd like to join us for half off, just visit seamwork.com/go/podcast50. You can also find us on Instagram at Seamwork, or visit our YouTube channel, which is called Seamwork Video. We love hearing from you, so let us know if there's a topic or a personal story that you'd like us to cover. Thanks for listening to Seamwork Radio.